Hello dear friends, welcome back. Friends, in the anatomy of the human respiratory system, this was our first lecture. Then the parts of respiratory system, the zones, the parts of conducting zone, we discussed about the nose, the main parts of the nose, the cartilages, the bones of the nose, the nasal septum that we discussed in the last lecture, the blood supply of nasal septum, the innervation of the nasal septum. I hope you have watched that lectures. Now in this lecture we are going to discuss about the lateral walls of the nose. The lateral walls of the nose. Okay, let us go in detail. The lateral walls of the nose, there are two lateral walls of the nose. They are divided into what? The lateral wall contains the vestibule, it contains the atrium, it contains the concave and meatus of the nose. Right, so you can see here, this is the vestibule, right? Behind the nostrils, the broad part of the nose, this is the vestibule. Here is the atrium of the nose, right? The lateral wall of the nose, and these are the meatus and the concave of the nasal lateral wall of the nose. Now the lateral wall of the nose also contains two parts, the bony part and the cartilaginous part. The bony part of the lateral wall of the nose is formed by what? It is formed by the nasal bones, the frontal process of the maxilla. Look here, these are the nasal bone, right? The frontal process of the maxilla here. Then there are the lacrimal bones here, right? Then there are the labyrinth of the ethmoid bone, right? The labyrinth of the ethmoid bone is there. Then there is the superior and inferior concave, right? These are the superior and inferior concave. Then the perpendicular plate of the palatine bone. Here you see perpendicular plate of the palatine bone. And then there is a medial pterygoid plate. This is the medial pterygoid plate of the sphenoid bone. So all these bones communicate and forms the bony part of the lateral wall of the. Okay. Then the cartilaginous part of the nasal septum or lateral wall of the nose are superior nasal cartilage, inferior nasal cartilage, and the alar cartilages. These are the cartilages which take part in the formation of the nasal of the cartilaginous part of the lateral wall of the nose. So here you see the lateral process of septal cartilage. Then there is these cartilages that I mentioned here, right? Then there are some openings in the lateral walls of the nose. There is the sphenoid ear sinus, the posterior ethmoidal ear sinus, the middle ear sinus, the pharyngotympanic tube, the nasolacrimal duct, the frontal ear sinus, and the maxillary ear sinus. So all these openings are shown in this image. You can see and find all these openings in these lateral walls of the nose in these images, right? Then there are concave, the nasal concave and meatus. So you can see here the bones project inside the nasal cavity. So there is the projection, right? This is called the inferior concha. Then there is the middle concha, and then there is the superior concha. So superior, middle, and inferior concave are there in the lateral walls of the nose. And in between these concave there are openings. These openings are called meatus. So superior meatus, middle meatus, and inferior meatus, right? So the concave and the meatus is also done. Then the blood supply of the lateral wall of the nose. Again we say that according to blood supply, the lateral walls of the nose are also divided into four regions: the anterior superior region, anterior inferior quadrant, posterior superior quadrant, posterior inferior quadrant, right? So anterior superior quadrant, you can see here we have divided these quadrants. This is the anterior superior quadrant. This is supplied by anterior and posterior ethmoidal arteries. Anterior inferior quadrant is supplied by the branches of the facial artery, right? And the posterior superior quadrant, this one is supplied by spinopalatine artery, and the posterior inferior quadrant is supplied by greater branches of the greater palatine artery, right? So lateral walls. arterial supply. The innervation of the walls of the nose, again there are general sensory information and special sensory information. So general sensory information, again they are divided, we divide the quadrants, and in these quadrants we divide these nerves. So anterior superior quadrant of the lateral wall of the nose supplied by ophthalmic nerve, anterior inferior quadrant maxillary nerve, posterior superior quadrant pterygopalatine ganglion, posterior inferior quadrant supplied by the pterygopalatine ganglion again, right? So these were the quadrants and the innervation. And special sensory innervation, you know, that is present there by olfactory nerve. So this was about the lateral walls of the nose. Now generally, my friends, generally we say that our whole nose is supplied by which arteries, right? So I have written here the blood supply of the nose: anterior ethmoidal artery, posterior ethmoidal artery, lateral nasal arteries, greater palatine arteries, superior labial arteries. All these arteries help in the blood supply of the nose. And the innervation of the nose, the nose is supplied by special innervation and general innervation. Special innervation is by olfactory nerve, and general innervation mostly nasopalatine nerve, nasociliary nerve, and trigeminal nerve. All the branches of the nerve that we discussed here, you know, they come from these major three nerves. So this was about the innervation of the nose and the discussion on the lateral walls of the nose. So friends, here we are finished with the discussion about the nose of the human body. So in section of the nose we discussed about each feature of the nose. Inshallah, in the next lecture we will start discussing about other part of the conducting zone of the respiratory system. You know, here I had told you the conducting zone, right? So we discussed about the nose, and then we will discuss about the pharynx and larynx and other parts. So see you guys in the next lectures. Till then, Allah Hafiz.